Thanks, George.
Oh, yes, she is.
Can you hear me, George? It's on. I was just testing to see if Dave could, yeah. All right. We're going to start the meeting, Dave, so give us a sec.
Okay.
So everyone, welcome to the Tuesday, May 20th, 2025 Town of Monroe Planning Board regular meeting. Noreen, would you please do the roll call?
Bonnie Franson,
Here?
Jeff Manson. Here. Matt Shea.
Here.
Vera.
Here.
With that, I would like to point out the fire exits. There are two behind the audience. Another is the main entry out to my left, and then another to my right, which is leading out to the patio. With that, please let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. So just for everybody's information, we're starting with a returning project, Henry Farm. After that, we will switch gears, go to our public hearings, and then continue on with other returning projects and new business. So, good evening.
Good evening, Vince Peterzak here for Henry Farms.
Present where you are, and then we'll run through.
Well, I guess tonight we're only here to review the wetlands permit information.
So we do have Dave Tompkins here, who is available via Zoom. And I believe Steve Marino and Dave were able to go out into the field?
Yes,
Okay. And Dave did provide, I believe, a memo with summarizing the results, but Dave's here so he can speak to the process and where we are.
I haven't seen that memo.
Okay, I thought I saw one, but we'll see. I may be getting my projects mixed up.
Was that?
I saw something, but I thought,
I can't remember the Friday, I'm
and then we got
sorry.
something from O&R. All right, Dave, do you want to give us an overview what transpired?
Sure, I'd be happy to. So I did meet Steve Marino at the site last Monday. We did a quick a tour of the wetland delineation. We did have some flags that I did talk to Steve about possibly relocating, just to more accurately reflect the wetland delineation. But in general, most of the flags were close, either way of the line. And I feel the delineation is acceptable as it is, especially since there's a 100-foot buffer on everything. That kind of accounts for any nuances in the delineation. So I think it's it's not productive to kind of move each flag 5 feet or so like that. That's incorporated in the buffer, and that's one of the functions of the buffer, is to kind of take that variability out. So the delineation, I believe, is fine, with a few changes that I did discuss with Steve. I did request a copy of a wetland delineation report. Steve believed one had been submitted, so I was looking for a copy of that. I have not received it, okay? And one of the reasons of each wetland, and there's an assumption here that wetland G is isolated. And I'd like a description of that, that finding and the justification for it to be in a report. Question also came up. There was a JD that's quite old, I believe, issued by Brian Roselle, the Corps. I'm questioning whether or not that. I don't have a copy of it, but I'd like to check to make sure there's an expiration date on it. I know on D's. Like to confirm that's not expired. Steve and I did talk about moving the mitigation area. Where it is now on the side down there, it has lots abutting to the back of the property. The back of the lots abut mitigation area. That's a common occurrence of like convenience dumping then. Grass cuttings, leaves, branches, etc. get thrown into it. I'd like to see almost a buffer, or better, I think the mitigation area would be better located down along the road there, Lakes Road. That area is all wet, and maybe connecting some of the areas, the wetlands down there, could serve as mitigation. So again, I did address that with Steve. He actually thought it was a good idea, so it's something worth looking at. My next comment was on the road to the water tower. The road right now goes right through the buffer around that wetland, and I'm questioning whether or not it can be moved out of the buffer, and that's a civil question. I don't know if it can be, or can it be moved to the edge of the buffer? I would rather see a disturbance, like an access road to a water tower, on the edge of a buffer, not in the middle of the buffer. Okay? And I'd be glad to expand on that if needed. I had a question about the commercial lot. Is it still in? Steve was not sure, so I had some questions on that. Is that part of this approval or whatever? I saw somewhere where it was a separate site plan approval, but I'm not clear on that, and that's more of a question. I did note that lots 67, 68, 35 all impact wetland A or the buffer. I think there's a way to re-engineer that so it could be reduced. I'd like to see the wetland impacts removed, and I'd like to see the buffer impact reduced. Box culverts. I did question why they were being used in 2 locations and not 4. They're a very good tool to mitigate any kind of stream disturbance, and I wouldn't mind seeing them in all 4. I asked for a table, just a quick table, and what is the total buffer disturbance, what is the total wetland disturbance, and then total mitigation. I'm not sure it needs to be in the site plan or how it comes into the project, but I didn't see any details on mitigation. Where, what, how is it going to be, how is it going to be constructed. I'd like to see the stormwater basins moved out of the buffer areas. I don't think they need to be in the buffer areas. I think there's room for that. And I had a question about the DEC status. With the new DEC regulations, there's a procedure for determining jurisdictional determination from the DEC. Again, in talking to Steve last Monday, he seemed to indicate this was in the works. And I requested a copy of the application and a status update on that. And then lastly, although it's Karen Arendt's field, I did have a question about the large trees. There are significant trees on that hillside, and I was wondering if there was a plan to try to reduce the impact to them. And that's a quick summary of my notes.
Thank you, David. Do you have any responses, Vince, at this point? You just take it all under and
Yeah, I
review
just
the
assumed
comments.
I could, bits and pieces I could respond to, but I might as well just respond to everything at once with the next submission.
David, I'm not sure if you can, are you able to hear that?
No, I didn't. I'm sorry. If you could repeat it, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, so Vince is going to look at all the comments, and he'll put together a response memo to the comments you offered this evening.
That's fair. That's very fair. Thank you.
Okay? Does anyone else have any questions or comments for Dave at this point? I think we need to see the responses. So I think we're good for this evening. Obviously, this is going to take some time. We'll need the responses addressed. I will ask one thing. I thought I recall from a prior meeting, Vince, that you were going to the DEC to determine whether any of the wetlands could be considered now DEC wetlands.
Yes, we made that submission, and the initial response I got back from the DEC was, we're going to try to get a response back to you in 3 months. So we have one more month to wait before we get something back.
Okay, so David, I don't know if you heard that, but they did submit to DEC to determine whether there's any jurisdictional wetlands present. The timeframe, I'm sure you're aware, is 3 months right now. And I think you're saying they have a month to go still.
Yes, we submitted it the end of March, so we're
End of
looking
March.
for a response back the end of June.
Okay, so that is in the works.
Okay. Bonnie, could Vince confirm that there was a wetland delineation report prepared for this project?
I cannot, well, originally there was, but I haven't seen a report for the current flagging yet.
Okay.
So then you'll check with Steve Marino to get a report from him for the current wetland delineation.
Yes,
Because there have
correct.
been significant changes, so it'd be good, and we've raised this before, why the changes
Yes.
from the original. So we'll look to get that, David.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, Dave,
Great.
All right, good. I'll sign off. Reach out if you need anything. Thank you.
thank you.
Good night.
Good night. Okay. All right, so with that, why don't we start with comments from our engineer? And I just, for those who are used to seeing Sean, here at our meetings, we have Matt Sickler representing us as our planning board engineer from McGoley, Hauser, and Edsel, the same firm, so there's certainly continuity. Welcome and thanks for joining us.
Bonnie, appreciate that. Comments for this project are pretty simple tonight. We had previously issued some comments back in April and May on the project SWIP and site plan. Preparing responses and plan revisions in consideration of those comments, and he anticipates providing that shortly for continued review.
And we have Tompkins comments. Ashley?
I don't have anything new from since the last time. So I know they're working on the revised consistency analysis, and we'll go from there.
Wonderful.
Sounds good.
Thank you very much. Have a
Thank
nice
you.
evening.
All right, so we're going to go next to our public hearings that have been scheduled. First on the agenda is Paul Reiser, 20 Stairway, Monroe, New York. Ashley, do we want to resolve to open our public hearing? I will make a motion that we open the public hearing for Paul Reiser, 20 Stairway. May I have a second?
2 Stairway.
Sorry?
22. Yes.
22. Second?
Rivera.
Aye.
Jeff Manson. Bonnie Franson.
Aye.
Pat Shea.
Aye.
Thank you. So Dave, if you'd like to give us an overview of where we are.
Sure. Just for the record, David Higgins from Lankentelli Engineering and Surveying. So this application is at 22 Stairway. It's on the west side of New York State Route 17M, just north of the village of Monroe. The project site is 1.677 plus or minus acres in size, and it's in the GB district. The proposed project is for the use of the property as a contractor storage yard, which is a permitted use in the GB district subject to a special permit under section 57-13V of the code. We have made all of the changes to the plans that were previously discussed with the board. We do now show on the plan a 20-foot by 30-foot paved asphalt pad. That's essentially for the storage or parking of any heavy machinery, which the code calls out anything over 2,000 pounds. There are some existing storage containers on the property, which, again, as we've previously shown to the board, they're going to be relocated to meet the yard setbacks. We have shown parking on the site. The applicant is a single sole proprietor, so basically it's just himself, but we did provide 2 spaces on the plan for parking. And I know that we've provided information to the board to show compliance with the criteria for that section of the code for the special use. We've shown hours of operation on the plan as being 8 to 4:30 Monday through Friday, closed on Saturdays and Sundays. The code actually allows additional hours, but generally speaking, those are the hours that the applicant is looking to utilize the property on. We do have some restrictions, restrictive notes on the plans that there's no parking of trucks or loading within 30 feet of the adjacent residential lot. There's also a note on the plan that any the oil spill mats shall be kept on site and used under any machinery that is leaking fluid or is being worked on. And also the existing driveway that's shown on the plan that crosses over into the adjacent lot. We now show that as to be abandoned and reclaimed with topsoil, seed, and mulch, and that'll be essentially watered as needed until vegetation is established.
You. Let's go through our consultants' comments first, and then we'll open it up to the public. Matt, did you have any comments?
Yeah, we had a couple comments from discussions at your previous meeting when this project was on the agenda. You'd asked that we reach out to the building inspector for an interpretation regarding the storage of motor oil on the site for the applicant's use in maintaining his own machinery. The building inspector indicated as long as they do not exceed the fire code of New mechanical oil for regular not be a violation of requirements. Mention there, want to consider site plan as well. Second issue, the second issue you asked us to reach out to the building inspector on was the Jersey barriers that were currently on the site. He indicated that those could be placed a minimum of 5 feet from the property lines with screening. The current site plan, I believe, shows the barriers placed approximately 15 feet from the side property line, so they are outside of the setbacks as well. So I believe that would comply with the interpretation from the building inspector. And, yep, finally, you had requested an aerial plan be provided with the project overlay on it. That was submitted by the applicant for your use.
So I believe that this.
Correct, yep.
Ashley, do you have any comments?
No comments. I did prepare a draft resolution for the board to consider later on, so all of my comments are incorporated into that.
Resolution?
Yeah.
Okay. Are there any members of the public that would like to come up and have any comments on this particular application? Anyone? No? Come on up, and then just state your name and address for the record.
They can go to the podium.
There's a podium here where you can raise your comments. Yes. Yes. And just,
My name is Kieran Muchler. I have property on Forest Avenue there. I don't know if this is a foregone conclusion because it just came to my awareness within a week or so about the development and the application. But publicly, is there any other area that this project could be applied to, or this site plan? Could O&R have, is there any other area?
This
that
is,
could
I'm
develop?
sorry to interrupt, this isn't the ONR public hearing, this is for the property located, we have a few public hearings tonight. This is for the property located at 22 Stairway, and they're having site plan special use permit approval for a building and contractor, or landscape and
Maybe I'm
builder.
speaking on the wrong topic then, but
Yeah,
I'd like
that-
to speak on the one that's the development on the wetlands.
oh, for the Orange and Rockland?
Yes.
Okay, that'll be upcoming.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you then.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to come up? Board members, any comments or questions?
None.
No? Jeff, no? Pat?
No.
Okay. I think with that, we can,
So moved.
second?
Second.
Pat Shea?
Aye.
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 So it seems that everything's in order. Our engineer suggested that a map note be added with regard to, is it oil?
Storage of motor oil for maintenance of their vehicles.
So we do have a draft resolution that we can consider. Type 2. So this is the draft of the resolution of approval for site plan and special use permit for Paul and Dawn Reiser. So our resolution goes into the nature of the application, and it has to do with utilization of this property for building or landscape material storage yard. And the property involved is the property identified as being located at 22 Stairway, tax parcel 3-1-26. The property is within the GB General Business Zoning District, and there's a recitation of the plans that have been submitted in support of this particular application. It was received on February 24th, 2025, and there was a zoning amendment adopted by local law number 6 of 2024, which ultimately allowed this particular type of use to be permitted in the GB district by special use and site plan approval by the planning board. Public hearing on this application was convened this evening, and it was closed. In terms of seeker, this was considered a type 2 action. GML.
GML comments back. It was a local determination dated May 12th, 2025. They did have 3 advisory comments.
That was May.
May 12th. Want me to summarize those for you? So the first was regarding environmental constraints, that the project's in an area known for habitat for the northern long-eared bat and Indiana bat, and they're recommending that best practices be used in terms of tree clearing, but there's no tree clearing for this project, correct?
Correct.
So that wouldn't be applicable. The next was for lighting. They recognize that the applicant has not proposed any lighting. We advise the town, if lighting is needed or proposed in later stages of the development, to require the applicant to prepare a lighting plan that follows the following measures regarding dark sky compliant and the typical standards, which, since there's no lighting being proposed, I don't think that would be applicable here. The last was transportation. The project's located across from the Orange County operated park and ride facility on Route 17M. We advise the town and the applicant to work with the New York State Department of Transportation and Orange County Department of Public Works on this project to ensure that any concerns regarding safety or traffic can be mitigated.
When we get to the conditions, I'd like to see what we have for lighting, if there's a map note that should be added. Findings. So these are our findings in terms of the amended site plan being substantially consistent with our regulations and the special use permit standards. And there's then a listing of the various requirements and objectives with regard to that. I won't go into it. And then specific findings regarding the building and landscaping material storage yard. Provisions of Town Code 5751 are complied with. And no loading spaces, access driveways for trucks are located within the district. Appropriate vegetation and other measures exist to obscure views of stored materials. Heavy machine or other equipment will be stored on an outdoor impervious area designed to keep all soils and natural surfaces free from oil and/or automotive and hydraulic chemicals and fluids. No compost, manure, mulch, or other organic materials or chemicals are proposed to be stored here. Heavy equipment will be operated, and it provides the hours of operation. So, okay, so we have the water ski park identified.
You have that one, and then I think,
Jeff had mentioned O&R Park.
so that is also within the 1,500 feet, so we should modify this. Do you know about how far that was, or?
It's right at the 1,500.
Okay. And does the board feel that there should be any additional restrictions in terms of noise to limit potential impacts on that park? Or do you feel that because of the distance,
That it's mitigated by distance?
that it's mitigated by the distance and other noises in between?
The applicant is proposing to operate less hours than currently have.
I think this is the water ski, right? And then you're saying this is the O&R? This one is Town Park. Right. So I think given the distance and frankly, the road and the substation, there are other uses that would generate noise more so than I think this proposed use from my perspective.
The highway alone.
Yeah.
The SBL for the ONR Park on there, Bonnie?
O&R,
just so I could add that in.
On -1-57.11?
I propose to modify that finding to say that there's no school, library, park, daycare, group home for disabled persons, nursing home, or retirement community within 1,500 feet of the property except for the Twin Lakes Water Ski Park located on tax lot 1-1-56 and the ONR Park, and the town ONR Park located on tax lot 1-157.1 due to the noise associated with water skiing and distance and land uses between the proposed use and the ONR Park. The planning board finds that no further restrictions are warranted to ensure that such facilities are not unreasonably impacted.
Discuss that this application doesn't involve the removal of trees, and if there were, it'd be subject to our tree requirements. At a later date, public improvements, there are none. Specific conditions, approval is subject to final engineering review, shall not be signed until receipt of a letter from the planning board engineer certifying that all deficiencies noted in his memorandum have been remedied.
The date of that will be the 20th.
The 20th. Okay, that'll be added. No new lighting is being approved as part of this application. I'd just like to say or have a note on the plan that should any lighting be proposed, the applicant will return to the planning board for its review to ensure lighting is dark sky compliant.
Okay.
Packs directed out toward everywhere
to-
but down.
Add to specific condition number 2, and as it says, should any lighting be proposed in the future, the applicant shall return to the planning board for amended approval to ensure that the lighting is dark sky compliant.
Yes, thank you. No disturbances approved beyond the existing building and pavement footprint. No building permit for a structure larger than is shown in the plans will be issued. Approvals for a building, a landscape material storage yard. And this incorporates the narrative by reference to those operations. We already talked about no compost, manure, mulch, or other organic materials or chemicals will be stored on the site. Heavy equipment over 1 ton.
That condition also references the motor oil that the building inspector had discussed with Matt.
And then, should we say there'll be a note added to the plan to that effect?
Prior to the signing of the plans, a note shall be added to this effect, to the satisfaction of the planning board engineer.
Yes. And heavy equipment over 1 ton shall only be operated. We already talked about the hours of operation. Our site plan approval only allows construction of that which is shown. No encroachments on neighboring properties are being authorized or approved by this resolution, regardless of whether such encroachments are shown in the plans. There's a reference to prior approvals that those conditions and requirements still apply. And then we have a series of general conditions that apply to site plans. And that is it. Anything else we need to change that encompasses everything? Anything else? So with that, I will make a motion that we approve this resolution for Paul and Don Reiser at 22 Stairway. May I have as amended, may I have a second?
Second.
Pat Shea,
Aye.
Bonnie Franson,
Aye.
Jeff Manson,
Aye.
Kara.
Aye.
All right, with that, it's approved.
Great, thank you very much.
Sure thing.
Am I here for the next one as well?
No, we have to do the next public hearing.
Oh, okay, got it, all right. So I'll sit back in the back.
We have to come back for Nick in a little bit.
See you in a few. Thank you.
Yeah, I know.
So the next public hearing is for Orange and Rockland off Forest Avenue. Everybody would like to come up? Good evening. You'll just state your names for record.
Christopher Mink with EN Engineering.
Leslie Snyder, the attorney for the applicant.
Michael Hominick, O&R.
Thank you. Before we open the public hearing, I just want to say that I've basically gotten comments from everyone. We really need to get the submissions in by the submission date. We received them today, and we can't even consider them for this evening. So if you would really just please endeavor to try and get them in by the submission date. Otherwise, it's just going to delay the process. So we'd appreciate that. Thank you.
Understood.
I will make a motion that we open the public hearing for the Orange and Rockland application off of Forest Avenue. May I have a second?
Second.
Rivera.
Aye.
Jeff Manson. Bonnie Franson.
Aye.
Pat Shea.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Before we open it to the public, we'll quickly go through any of our consultant comments.
Sure. We'd previously issued comments regarding the project SWIP, I believe back in April. Since that time, we've had some discussions and a meeting with the O&R team to review that. We received a revised SWIP today. We'll get that in the queue for review and go through those responses. Comments from your wetland scientist, which I believe we can discuss separately. Along with those comments, I believe that the applicant has submitted a request to DEC regarding jurisdiction for those wetlands. I don't know if you've received a reply yet to that.
We did. We
Okay.
received a reply. They agreed with our jurisdictional determination, and then we had a site visit on April 28th with Mr. Fleischer of Capital Environmental, and he concurred with those wetland delineations. We also have the Army Corps of Engineers also concurred with the wetland delineations.
Okay. I believe you've also received comments from the MCC regarding that meeting and site visit, I believe, for review. The application has been referred to the landscape architect. I'm not sure if those comments have been received yet, but
I don't believe we've gotten anything from Cal. I did reach out, and she said she would be working on those, so hopefully we'll get those soon. So, well, remind me, and I'll send another email out, Noreen.
and the application proposes some minor drainage work within Forest Street. We'll just update the plans to show pavement replacement, limited pavements removals, those details associated with that. So we seek to review that's our comment.
Ashley, anything?
A couple, you did submit to the county for GML review. You're still waiting for comments from them, so I don't know if the 30 days passed yet.
22nd is the 30 days.
Okay, so for your next meeting, you'll either have a response or your 30 days will have passed. I did prepare a draft EAF Part 2, since you will have to complete seeker. This is an unlisted action. You previously declared your intent and assumed lead agency, so that's something that the board will ultimately have to do. And I did note here, and it might be on the plans, this might have been an old note to myself, but the color of the fence, do you know if that's specified on the plan?
I believe it is specified on the plan. It's the galvanized
Yeah.
steel.
Okay, so I
We
think
brought
that
a
was an
sample
old
of that.
note of mine. But that's it for me.
Thank you. I think before we get planning board member comments, we'll go to the public. So this is the public hearing on the O&R proposed substation off of Forest Avenue. If there's anyone here who would like to speak, if you'd come up to the mic, state your name, address for the record.
We have 4 people.
Okay, thank you. Good evening.
Good evening, everybody. I am Cecilia Matchler, 97 Forest Avenue.
Can you just make sure you're speaking into the
Oh,
microphone?
is it on?
It should be on, but
It's not on.
It's on.
you just have to get close.
Can you tap it? Just tap, it's on, so you just have to get closer to it.
I'm Cecilia Matchler, 97 Forest Avenue, Monroe, New York. I have lived in my home for 50 years. I'm surrounded by wildlife and wetlands. I've known this power line for many, many years. I'm very concerned about it because we've got children in our neighborhood. My family goes all the way back to my husband's grandfather worked for Bosco Smith. Generations have worked for Orange Rockland. Actually, 4. I'm very concerned about that.
Stay on the line, please.
Going up. That substation going up. In my opinion, it's very dangerous. We've seen when we'd have a storm that, I don't know the name, but on the power line, it would bust. Okay? And I've lived there, and I've seen it. So if they're going to put the substation along that line, I don't have any maps. So where's the location of it? Is it on that power line that they want to put it?
It's within that right-of-way, yes.
Also, we have a serious traffic problem there because you're coming over from Carriage Joel, you're coming around Scunny Monk, and there's kind of a bend in the road. We've got traffic that comes through there 50 miles an hour until it gets to the end of Franklin Avenue. The state police know about it, and I personally know about it because I have trouble going out of my driveway. That's what concerns me. The traffic, the trucks, and the road. You know, I see the cars overtaking each other on that narrow road. Now, I happen to be a church-going person. I go out every morning to church. Sometimes I can't get out my driveway. We have cars skidding along the road. They don't seem to know where the middle of the road is. You know, they're going all over the place. And our wildlife, we don't have too much wildlife left in Monroe. And we are surrounded by wildlife. They have nowhere to go anymore. So we'd have to come up with a solution. That's all. We have to come up with a solution. I don't know what they can do. Why can't they push us over where the old substation was? Over by the ponds, where they used to own. Why is that? And we've got children in our neighborhood. Little children. So how much traffic are we going to get through the park? You know, I'm a citizen. And these are my concerns. So that's why I came down to express my concern about this. All right, thank you for listening to me.
Thank you. Anyone else like to come on up and speak to this?
Hello everyone, my name is Yehosef Granhut. I live at 103 Forest Avenue in Monroe, New York. I actually also just got notified last week about it. I was kind of surprised. I would love to have a copy of the proposed plan if possible, so just so I can understand exactly where it's going. And to my neighbor's point, it is a very blind spot over there. Accidents happen at least once a week. If the town wants to see them, I can show it to them from my cameras. It happens on the guardrails. It happens cars falling into the cul-de-sac, which is too far a street. They actually fall in there because they do speed. I have watched construction going on there for the past year. I wasn't sure exactly what it is. I guess now I know because ONR was obviously making some tests on the property to see if they're capable of doing that. and that alone caused a lot of traffic. I live right before the cul-de-sac. One of the many accidents that happened is when the school bus came to drop off my kids or pick them up, and because a lot of trucks parked over there by the corner, it was very invisible for cars to actually see what's going on behind it, and accidents almost happen. I'm very concerned about the fact that something is going to be there permanent and O&R trucks coming and going. And I wish that this can be relocated to a different area where it's more safe for the locals.
Thank you for that.
Thank you so much.
Oh,
How are you? My name is Kieran Muchler, again from Forest Avenue, Monroe. In regard to the O&R Public Utility Substation, most of my concerns are preliminary because of what the environmental impact will be. We had a couple of speakers already talk about the traffic issue and so on and so forth. My interest is the constant deforestation and cutting down the trees and the impact it's had upon the local communities. We seem to be overdeveloping the area and losing a lot of those natural characteristics which made what's described on the Monroe Historical website as a beautiful hamlet with foothills that they compared to that of Scotland. There obviously is the environmental impact to the animals. I mean, there was areas at times we had screech owls and we had multiple deer and we had multiple different animals, including partridge and pheasants. Those are all gone because everything's been cut down and destroyed and overdeveloped. And what we look to as a beautiful substrate of a shining hamlet on the hill is systematically being destroyed. That would be my interest in the environmental impact of the substation, what's going on. Also with that, historically, that section of Bald Hill was essentially reserved as a parkland, right? Going all the way over to the other side where Smith Clove Park was established. I'm wondering what the impact upon that will be with the size of the substation and the clearing of the trees and what the impact will be upon that. There's also springs on that side of the hill, historical springs, but if we look what's going on in South Blooming Grove, we can see the great impact it's having with the water with that village and the issue that they're having, just simply by overdeveloping and cutting down trees and altering the environment at a rapid, rapid rate. So my question was, is there anywhere else that this substation could possibly be placed, even on the alternate side of 17? And furthermore with that, is it absolutely necessary and is this already a foregone conclusion? Has this project already been approved? If it has been, my impact is essentially, look at Bald Hill, look at the historic nature of it. Remember that it was donated to the town and the village by Smith as parkland. It was systematically used in the last 40 years that I've seen it by the Boy Scouts of America, and it stands as a symbolic image to the top of the town. And I'd hate to see that systematically cut up and destroyed, especially if a substation is not pertinent and absolutely necessary to the area. Those are my concerns. I appreciate your time.
thank you. And this isn't approved. That's the purpose of the public hearing. Thank you. Next.
Good evening. Mary Bingham, Councilwoman, Town of Monroe. I do want to read part of Dennis Fordham's letter. He is the Monroe Conservation Commission Chairman. The letter was dated May 5th, I believe. Yes, May 5th. He specifically states, the tree preservation plans identified only trees 10-inch DBH and larger, other than trees on slopes greater than 30%. I believe this is an incorrect interpretation of the new the new tree preservation law, section 57-83B, subsection 2 states, trees greater than 6 inches DBH that are located over slopes greater than 30% or that are listed on the list of landmark, native, protected, or specimen trees, appendix to the zoning local law, see attachment number 4, or as identified as landmark, oops, there goes my phone, 1 second. Or identified as landmark, protected, or specimen trees by the MCC, that means the Monroe Conservation Commission, during a site inspection associated with this article. I interpret this to mean that all native trees greater than 6 inches DBH are to be considered as regulated trees and therefore should be shown on the tree plants. Now, when you do go into E-codes, the new law is not there. You have to go to where it says new laws, and it's not going to be until probably the end of June or the end of July that you're actually going to see it in E-codes in that section 5780. So I just want to make sure that the applicants are looking in the right spot under local law. It's local law number 1 of 2025. Okay. Some of the residents have already expressed a concern as to why this location is being used. O&R already has a substation on Orange and Rockland Road. So why do we need another section? Couldn't the substation on Orange and Rockland Road be used? Could it be expanded? It's next to a commuter lot. It's not necessarily next to more residential areas. So I can understand the residents' concerns with that. Also, in the future, technology keeps changing, and we've heard a lot about in the past about PCBs when transformers they don't work right and they leak into the environment. So I want to make sure that whatever technologies, because these new batteries that are being considered, the lithium batteries, I know Warwick had a problem with them. I don't know if in the future O&R plans to store anything like that at the substation. So just to clarify for the residents that nothing hazardous now or in the future will ever be stored at this site. So those are my basic comments, and I hope that you'll consider them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Anyone else, would they like to come up and speak? Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Jeff Scully. I'm special counsel to the law firm of Catania, Mann, and Ryder. And we represent, sorry, let me get myself situated. We represent Sherry Torah, Inc. I'd like to just give a little bit of background before I highlight a couple of the concerns we've made in our submission. Sherry Torah is an Orthodox school that has approximately 6,000 students. About 1,500 of them are located here in the town of Monroe at a school located on Forest Avenue and Forest Street. In fact, it's directly adjacent to the O&R parcel at which the proposed electrical substation is to be installed. That school provides classroom instruction to about 1,500 students, and they range from kindergartners around 5 years old to 12th graders who are up to 17 or 18 years old. There's also approximately 400 staff members who work at the Monroe School. And some of these students and staff members live locally, right in the neighborhood, and they walk to and from the school every day. Additionally, of course, many of the parents of the students, they are coming and going from the school all day long. The Monroe School consists of 2 buildings. They're approximately 200,000 square feet, and in the middle of these buildings is a swimming pool that's used by our students for both recreational and physical educational activities. And both of these buildings and this school is directly situated on the boundary line between the O&R parcel and these structures, this pool, are mere feet away from the proposed electrical substation. This application immediately raises numerous issues, including under SECRA and potential concerns given this proximity between the substation and our school. And we seek to emphasize to this board that there are legitimate evidence-based concerns that exist about the environmental, the health, and the safety effects of this proposed substation, particularly under SECRA, and the risks to the children of the Monroe School who would be every day in close proximity to this substation. We address each of these issues in our submittal, and I'm going to touch on just a couple of these. But before I do, I just want to say, because this project raises numerous concerns, Sherry Torah is objecting to it as currently configured in, again, close proximity to the school, and therefore raising the issues we've discussed in our submittal and we're going to touch on. Regardless of those concerns, Sherry Torres is committed to working cooperatively with this board and to O&R to explore ways in which the project may be modified, including, as a number of residents have already said, possibly identifying alternate locations or other measures relieving our concerns to mitigate the risks inherent in placing an electrical substation so close to an operating school that has kids as young as 5 years old there every single day. The proposed substation site plan involves a wetland disturbance permit, and therefore it implicates stormwater management, runoff, and potential contamination of local water resources. This concern is heightened given, again, the proximity of this substation to the school and more than 1,500 kids who are going to be drinking that water every day and swimming in that pool. Consequently, the proposal implicates health, engineering, and drainage issues directly affecting site plan review and special permit approval. You respectfully submit that under the SEQA regulations, this board should conduct a thorough environmental review of this application, evaluating all potential impacts, including both the short and long-term effects on the surrounding community. Moreover, a full environmental impact statement should be provided assessing ecological impacts, including wetland disruption and mitigation measures to protect the Monroe School, its staff, and its children, along with the nearby residential areas. SEQA environmental review and the EIS must consider more than just drainage, stormwater management, runoff, potential contamination. It should also assess traffic impacts, again, as a number of the residents have already brought up, and I'm going to touch on in a moment here. The SEQA analysis requires that the board consider the cumulative effects of the proposed substation, given that Q&R is proposing multiple applications before this board.
We don't have multiple.
Consequently, environmental review should incorporate a cumulative impact analysis evaluating the broader implications of the substation, not only for the school, but for the broader community. Turning briefly to traffic. As a number of residents have said, there's already concerns at this location regarding traffic. And the proposed driveway for the substation and related construction activities are almost certainly going to increase in both the short and the long terms traffic along Forest Avenue and Forest Street, posing an increased safety risk to the public, the surrounding neighborhood, the Monroe School staff, and our students. The impact of this risk is likely to disproportionately be borne by school staff and students. As I've said, a number of them live locally, and they're walking to and from the school every day. Considering these factors, we respectfully request that the board commission a detailed traffic study and a mitigation plan ensuring safe pedestrian ingress and egress for staff and children, both during and after construction. Such a study should consider both those students and staff who commute to the school in motor vehicles and also those who are walking along these roads. There's some other things in our proposal, but I want to avoid the ever-present attorney risk of droning on and on, so I'm just going to sum up here pretty quickly. We submit that this station proposed risks even beyond the traffic studies risks we talked about and the environmental effects. There's an enclosed 2016 aerial image that demonstrates that this substation's footprint would directly abut the school's property line, both of our buildings, and the swimming pool, leaving little margin for error in the event of equipment malfunction or a catastrophic event. These events could include electrical fires, explosions, or equipment failures. We've talked about downed power lines. Everyone knows about those. These could endanger the children and the staff in such an emergency. As such, we're also asking the board to consider a comprehensive emergency response plan, including evacuation protocols for children and staff, the installation of safety barriers or setbacks, ameliorating these risks, and we further seek the inclusion of noise mitigation measures, such as sound barriers and additional landscaping to minimize aesthetic effects on the school. As we've discussed, this substation poses numerous potential concerns. We expect, and we're sure that the board's going to discharge its duty of due diligence and study each carefully and fully before proceeding with this application. Having said that, Sherry Torres is happy and will welcome the opportunity to work cooperatively with this board and with the applicant trying to formulate risk mitigation strategies, including, as everyone, all the residents have discussed here with you, a possible alternate site. But even if not an alternate site, then how to create solutions allowing this important project to proceed while protecting both the Forest Avenue Street neighborhood and the staff, and most especially the children of the Monroe School. I thank the board very much for its time.
Thank you. Just to clarify, so this is the one image that was attached? There was only one?
Yes, that's the only one I have.
Okay, I just want to make sure. Thank you.
And again, there is a second building that's been constructed since that 2016 image that is to, as you're looking at it, to the right of the swimming pool. Yes, to the right of the swimming pool, there's a second building. Thank you so much.
Is there anyone else that'd like to come up and speak to this application? All right, board members, comments at this point?
That was one of my concerns. We met not the time before this, but before that. The first time you were here, that was one of my concerns. Was I talked about trees, and then I spoke about the safety. And if you can reiterate what you said the last time about the safety concern.
Sure. So we didn't get a chance to sort of do a presentation to the people that, you've obviously been listening to this application for months, but obviously there's some residents who were not aware that the application has been before this board for months. So first of all, this property is in a light industrial district. It has O&R electric transmission lines. Those lines have been there when they obviously built the school and other things. The lines were there. We have submitted an EMF report to show that it meets all the criteria. We've submitted a noise report to show there'll be no noise impacts to the neighboring properties. We've shown stormwater runoff, that there'll be the pre and post, there'll be no runoff, so there'll be no impact on drainage or any water resources that'll be there. We've also shown not only noise, EMF, we've done visuals, we've done landscaping. We met with Dennis Forham at the site visit, and he actually concluded, and I don't want to read anything out of context, but he concluded that I believe the applicant is attempting to preserve as much of the tree boundary as reasonably possible given the design of the accessway and the substation. This substation is unmanned. There'll be no traffic impacts once it's built. There's no one coming and going. The only thing that would be is maintenance, maybe once a month. But other than that, it's unmanned. And during the construction, they will address whatever's needed to make sure that it won't be during school hours, so they can go before school begins and leave before school ends. I'm assuming we can work out a plan to that effect. But once the site is built, it will be unmanned, so there'll be absolutely no impacts. And so far as for the electromagnetic fields, the lines are there. The substation doesn't add to it, but we did provide a study to show that the substation would not impact and met all the criteria of the New York State Public Service Commission. And just to note also, the plans that we submitted, albeit that it was yesterday, and I apologize for that, was really to deal with Dennis's comments under the tree law. Because when they wrote the new tree law, it's a little tricky how you read it. There's really 3 criteria. It's really, you have trees greater than 6 that are on a slope of 30%? Do you have trees greater than 6 that meet the native species? And the third thing is trees greater than 10 that are individually. So we actually did a chart, and we had our tree person show each category. So that was the only thing that changed. If you recall, since we've been revising our plans now for several months, all our plans, there was really very few changes from the engineer. It was really to focus on the tree and to do it in a manner that was very clear that it met the tree law. The new tree law, which we did obtain from the town clerk with the attachment 4. That's in the tree law.
Couple of Thanks. Mr. Hominick, over the last couple of meetings, you've kind of been giving us a tutorial on the purpose and need for substation for O&R and what that does for our community. Several of the residents brought up in comment about why that location and/or why it's not feasible to expand, say, the substation on O&R Road. Why would that not meet O&R's need in this situation?
Yeah, sure. So I guess just to discuss what a substation does first off, right? The transmission lines carry high voltage electricity through the area. Currently, the area is fed from Monroe, from Harriman. There's also substations on Sugarloaf Mountain, where those transmission lines carrying the high voltage hit a substation and transform that voltage down to a lower voltage. It then distributes that out into the roads on our distribution circuits. Currently, the Harriman substation and the Monroe substation are reaching their capacity. There's an extreme level of growth in the Monroe area into the KJ area. So, you know, O&R is obligated to serve all of the development that goes on in an attempt to basically shorten the circuit lengths from Harriman and from Monroe to provide better reliability and better service, as well as increase the capacity of our system. The substation was situated in between the other two to shorten those circuit lengths and provide 15 additional circuits into the area, providing better reliability and a higher capacity for all the growth that's going on in Monroe. It does also allow for the addition of solar into the system and some of the newer technologies. Just to answer one of the other questions, there aren't currently any batteries proposed at this site as well.
I also don't see where there's going to be much in the way of a traffic impact from this project in that area. There's an incredible issue with traffic in that area, but this substation is not really going to be part of it. And we've already, you brought it up again, Leslie, that this is an unmanned station, once a month maintenance, and technicians out there in and I know O&R works hard to keep it that way. I do think that there's some benefit in the comments by Mr. Scully in relation to the project being so close to the schools. I understand EMF and all of those things. We did talk a little bit about noise, and we want to maybe just ensure that there's not a bleed over from the equipment because it is located somewhat adjacent. There was talk in the past, there's two schools there now, there was talk when we started with Sherry Torah years ago of possibly a third school eventually being in that same location. So we want to be sort of sensitive to that, and it might make sense for the applicant to have a conversation with representatives of Sherry Torah to understand exactly what's going on at the school and possible expansion plans if those are still applicable. So I would encourage you to, I think that's your most adjacent neighbor by far. So having an understanding of, it's always important to understand what's in the plans for the future, not only on your property, but what's adjacent to that. And I think that's warranted in this case.
We're happy to have those conversations, but we did submit a noise report to show there'll be zero increase in the ambient noise levels. So even if they add another school, that'll be their own noise that they're creating. And we do meet all the setbacks, and we do have screening around it as well, and vegetation.
I live relatively close to the O&R substation, O&R Road substation. I know what the noise level is because I'm there all the time. It's the highway noise that is certainly more of an impact on Sherry Torah, on my street, than a substation will be,
Exactly.
based on my experience.
And that's what our report showed as well.
So, hearing all the comments, my concern, and I think all our concern, would be what effect, if any, it's going to have on the children in the school, and what can be done to mitigate that at all. So, perhaps you can speak with the council and other members of the community, Councilman Bingham, discuss what mitigation could be done. Can it be moved, 100 yards? I don't know. But I would like to see more made some comments tonight.
We're happy to speak to the school. I think the other comments really were focused, I think, on traffic, which we've documented, but we're happy to speak to the school. We did spend a lot of time designing and locating the substation, which is in a small area. We have a 12-acre parcel, and we did work to maintain as many trees as we possibly can, plus we're adding trees, so we're very conscious about that. We also did, and you folks are aware because we submitted the study, a very detailed natural resource inventory study to show that we would not have any impact on any habitat, including the bog turtle. We did a special assessment about that. So we have taken our duties very seriously, including all the natural resources. But, we're happy, again, to reach out to the school, see what their plans are, and see if there's anything additional. They did build, I'm not sure they meet the setbacks, but we do meet all the setbacks. I haven't looked at their site plan. I just saw that some of the way
I can
the plan
appreciate
is
all the work
situated.
you've done, and I think that you've answered a lot of the questions about traffic and noise and lighting and all that sort of thing. But again, I just want to make sure that we've done everything we can do to alleviate the concerns and to answer, create a rejoinder to address the question about the children. That's the main thing I'm concerned about.
Right, and we understand, I'm a mother myself, so
Yeah.
I have concerns for children, we did do a study to show that there would be no impact. There is electric transmission lines there. They chose to build their facility near those lines, but we did show that there would be no impact from an electromagnetic energy standpoint. But we're happy to have a discussion with them, and if there's anything else that, we'll see what we can do to work together on that.
So you have more lines coming in, right?
No more additional high tension lines. The lines
Okay,
will be
so
the
it's
lines.
just
We're
taking those
utilizing
lines
the
and
lines that we have.
reducing the amount of electricity down so it can
Be
go out
distributed.
on 10 outlet or whatever.
Exactly, because there is a pressing need for reliable electricity, and there is a growing demand in the area.
The EMFs, is that changing at all from what is there presently as a result of the substation?
No. But we did do that detailed study, so it's all documented there.
In terms of alternatives, so I agree with my colleagues, what they've expressed. I do appreciate Pat's comments with regard to having a dialogue with the school so that they are more informed. In fact, if it was a forum where some residents could also attend, if the councilwoman or, I could be made available, or a planning board member wanted to attend, we'd be happy to set something up so that there's more ability to discuss back and forth, as opposed to, more formal setting like this. But I think it'd be beneficial to talk about the alternatives. So we have one O&R station off of O&R Road by the lakes. And then we have another all the way over by Harriman, by the shopping center. And so essentially, you're saying you need to add circuits between those 2 points. Just looking at the maps, it seems that there's limited right-of-way that you currently control where you could put something. So it seems to me this looks like there might be a right-of-way in here right near your neighborhood. And then you go on, and what you have are the transmission lines, but they're really crossing over properties as they look like easements or right-of-ways on those properties, but you don't own them. Is that correct?
That is correct, yeah. Those are mostly owned by easement. O&R owns this property in fee since 1950.
Right, so then you have the piece that you're proposing the substation on, which essentially goes from Forest, and it's actually the length of the school property. And then again, once you get beyond that, you're onto private property again. And so, again, it just, the lines continue on, and then ultimately, they go through the shopping center, again, privately owned, until you get to the Harriman station. So they do have to be located next to the high-tension lines because they're stepping down the voltage, I believe.
That's correct, yeah.
And so there are no high-tension lines on the other side by KJ, which you would be able to situate a station. That's why it's proposed on this side.
Yeah, it would require us to extend transmission facilities to that new location.
But not only to build the station, but then to even,
Yeah, we would have to build what they call a transition yard, which would take the overhead lines to an underground line and then have to run the distance to the facility.
are there any projects right now that O&R is pursuing to bring transmission lines to the other side of the highway?
There is not, no.
Okay, so nothing going on. And in terms of the easements you have on the private properties, those easements don't give you the right to build substations on those properties?
That is correct.
Okay, so you're really limited in terms of the properties on which this could be located?
For what O&R owns, that's correct, yeah.
Okay. And so it seems with regard to this property, again, this is running, your property is paralleling and running the length of the school property. And so anywhere you may locate that substation within that path is going to be next to the school. So I think that, so that's speaking to alternatives, but I think it'd be useful to have a narrative that summarizes this discussion. And then, I think ultimately it comes down to, is this location on this property, given the fact that it's next to the school, the best location on this property? And so I think that's just something to discuss and explore. Has this been situated in a location where it's furthest from? And are there any alternative designs that would be more mitigative? So this is what I'll call an open substation. I think in places like Long Island, other places, they've actually put substations in buildings or somehow housed them in structures. I don't know that that's necessary. I don't know that that provides more protection than, let's say, this type of facility, but I think it'd be useful just to understand that. In terms of traffic, you have expressed that these are basically unmanned situations. It sounds like the traffic issues that were being experienced was there must have been construction workers, people who were maintaining or doing testing that might have been parked on Forest Ave. So I think with regard to the substation, we just have to make sure the plans have sufficient parking. And that when you do, if this is approved, and you do go to construct this, all that parking cannot happen on Forest Ave because it's a problem, which the residents have expressed. Noise, you did do a noise study. I don't know that we've had anyone take a look at it to make sure that it's in order and that all the assumptions are appropriate, so we may want to have someone look at that. I know a couple people who could. so we can talk about that. I don't think this evening is probably the best time to go through the FEAF because we have such a heavy agenda. But I'm thinking, so I don't think, in my opinion, I don't think that we should close the public hearing at this point in time. But I'm thinking if we continue this to the second meeting in June, perhaps the first meeting, we could have more of the workshop discussion about the FEAF, all the seeker components, because we can't do anything as it is without GML, et cetera.
Right.
And we still have to do the additional SWIP review and engineering review, et cetera. So maybe we could take that first meeting to go through the FEAF, all the various reports that we have already, and is there anything that hasn't been addressed or that we require additional information on before we consider seeker determinations?
I think that makes sense. I think if you did want anyone to review noise, other than, I think Sean had reviewed the report originally. If you wanted any further review, I think that you'd want to discuss that this evening. That way it could be referred to them. One other item, I think when you do your submission, if you could also, you had mentioned in terms of traffic, construction traffic, that you'd avoid school bus times and school traffic. If you could explain, what you'd propose in that regard.
Sure.
That way you could consider that under.
So I think if we have someone look at the noise, it would be a noise specialist. There are a few out there, and we can talk about whether that should be reviewed. And I'm trying to think of what else. We talked about noise, we talked about traffic, wildlife. So it's not just about bog turtles, there's more to.
We looked at all the species.
Right, so I wanted to bring that point up that we had raised already, that, it's not only regulated species we're concerned about, but we don't know what's there, so we had asked for additional wildlife inventories to see if there were any amphibians or other species of concern that might be regulated. If they're ephemeral, if they're vernal, we want to make sure, what are the impacts, identify them. So those are my thoughts. Again, I think from my perspective, it'd be good to keep the public hearing open and then have this at the second meeting in June, and the first meeting of June would be dedicated to all things environmental and including engineering. So that's my proposal. I know Jeff has a couple comments still.
A question in relation to the location of the substation and the decision to put it on this parcel. Because you're working through the process on this, my understanding is that at the head of Larkin Drive over by 105, there's a temporary, I don't know the technical term for it, but like a substation to start to deal with some of the distribution issues that's there until this substation would come online. Do I understand that correctly?
That is correct.
Generally, that's not a residential area right there along that stretch. Is it not feasible to place a substation there? Was that a consideration at any time?
It's not feasible because that is not O&R property. We have a lease with the town. And it's very limited. The size is very limited, that location.
Yeah, I didn't know the size of the parcel there and who the adjacent owners were, that kind of thing. Okay, I appreciate that. This more of a comment, I guess, in relation to those who expressed a concern about the traffic in that area of town, not so specific to this project, but certainly specific to the concerns that were brought up at the public hearing. Councilwoman Bingham, for your behalf and frankly on behalf of those who sit with you on the board and the boards of the adjacent communities, the single biggest thing that would help that area of town, Forest Ave, Forest Street, Scunnamunk, Arico Terrace, where I live, would be the completion of the Larkin Drive extension between Route 208 and Forest Ave, right over by the back entrance to KJ. The issues that the Mushlers are having are the issues that I'm having getting off my street. I understand what they're dealing with because we're dealing with the same traffic. And it's just a factor of growth. We need to accommodate the growth. And by pulling that traffic off of these small residential streets and onto something that's really purpose-designed to move people effectively from the highway into the areas of our town and the adjacent towns that are growing, just makes sense. So I just want to pass that along.
I will only add for the benefit of the public that is here, the site plans are available in the planning office. Do we have them on the web? So they're also, you should be able to access them from our Town of Monroe web pages. And just to give you an indication, this is Forest over here. There's going to be a gravel road that comes in. This particular map happens to show where equipment and staging is proposed while they're doing the construction. The substation itself is located at the far end, kind of the southerly, easterly end of the parcel. It is, though, going to be across from the one building that's part of Sherry Torah. I think are there wetlands in here, in this end of the property, or?
Yes.
Yes. So that's one of the factors of putting it here, to avoid the wetlands or certain permits, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So I think the only alternative on this particular parcel, if you were to locate it furthest, would be in this block here. And I don't know what the wetland disturbances would be. I don't know, it may require a permit. I don't know what that would trigger. But maybe if you could explain to us why it can't go there, or if it did go there, what are the impacts if you're trying to locate it as far away as possible from the school? I don't know. You do have a retaining wall there, but the retaining wall is not a noise wall. It's just a retaining wall.
Correct.
And is it because the station is into a cut, or it's on top?
It will be on top. That's a fill slope.
That's a fill slope?
Correct.
Okay. So does the potential exist to put some kind of noise barrier at all on that side of the station? We see it with warehouses all the time nowadays, with, the dock loading areas, especially some of the big warehouses we're seeing in the county. I was just curious, have you ever built some kind of noise barrier?
For a substation, I don't know that would actually do any kind of mitigation.
Or be effective?
Correct. There is a landscaping buffer that will go in there that's going to be evergreens, cedars and spruce, so that will probably be the most effective noise mitigation.
I know you're also just, the parcel's fairly narrow, so you're somewhat limited. I don't know that the parcel can be elongated, the facility can be elongated more, so it's like narrower. And I don't know that would gain more distance between the school and the facility. I mean, again, I think you seem to be working within a pretty narrow band as it is.
Yeah, I'll defer to Mike on this, but there are 3 transformers and they are in a row, so it is kind of already narrowed.
Already?
Yeah.
Linear?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the essence of this design is long and narrow, so it's about as narrow as we can make it.
Okay. So, all right, so with that, I think what we'll do, Pat, please.
Yeah. So just a couple of questions. So you're saying that no matter where that station is placed, next to the school or where you want to place it, it's not going to affect the amount of the EMFs? It won't be any greater than what's there now?
Yeah, we're not adding any high-tension lines. Mike can... Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so the EMF report that was provided, we're not EMF experts, so we have the experts prepare the report, but essentially the EMF that exists for the transmission line is there. Substation is not a major impact to EMF. It doesn't really increase especially when there's existing transmission lines. It doesn't increase the EMF. Typically, EMF dissipates by the time you get to the fence line in these sorts of scenarios, and I believe that's what the report essentially shows.
Assuming all that's true, I think, a dialogue between yourselves and the public and Mr. Scully from Sheratori. Appropriate, and perhaps when you come.
Be happy to do so.
I think that report, the EMF report, and the other submissions should all be on the website, too, so.
Everybody can take a look at it.
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever reports we have should probably go on the website. Okay.
I did a check.
Everything's there. And again, I think speak to the school. It may be that there's limitations to putting mitigations on this property, but I don't know if there's space on their property, if ultimately it's determined that some mitigation would be beneficial, because I don't know what's there. I don't know if it's been clear cut, I don't know if there are trees there, but,
They actually have to park, but we will address it with them
yeah,
as well. We
perfect.
will discuss it with them and see if there's anything that we can do.
Okay.
Yeah, we will discuss it with them and look at their site plan as well. I'm assuming it's somewhere on file, and see if there's any mitigation that possibly, I think the way they built their facility, they sort of built it towards the.
Or it's right away from the highway and, as
Towards
far
the
as they.
O&R property,
Right,
right.
so.
Towards the lines, so.
And so if there is something we can work collaboratively to set something up with residents or with the school district, just please let us know, okay? With that, do we need to make a motion to extend the public hearing? So.
That date would,
Madam Chairman, a question.
Sure, go ahead, Lou.
So is there some type of barrier that can be put between the school and the substation to prevent EMFs from reaching the school? Is that something that's possible?
Well, the lines are there, they're overhead, so no, EMF, is in the, it's everywhere you go. If you use a cell phone, it's everywhere you go. So, no, that is not feasible, but, we can see if there's any other physical barrier to see. We've already proposed a landscape barrier, but we'll look into whatever other barriers that we can do. We also, just want to make sure, and I'm sure the board obviously are aware, we've spent a lot of time looking at all the natural resources and spending a lot of time to make sure that we weren't adversely impacting the wetlands, which really actually are considered low-quality wetlands, but we still were conscious about it. We did a huge report about all the wildlife, et cetera, that we've submitted to the board, and that's before you. And we are proposing a lot of wetland enhancement areas. We have a 3-for-1 enhancement that we're doing for affecting the buffers. That's additional screening that we're adding, not even for the additional landscaping.
Thank you.
Well, with regard to the public hearing, the Tuesday in June would be the 17th? All right, so I would make a motion that we continue this public hearing to June 17th at 6:30 or as soon thereafter. May I have a second?
Second.
Pat Shea,
Aye.
Bonnie Franson,
Aye.
Jeff Manson. Aye. Lou Revere.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, so the plan will be, well, continue the public hearing, and then, whatever has to be submitted, if you could do it by date, and then we'll try and do our FEAF workshop at the Thursday meeting beforehand. Okay?
No problem.
Thank you.
Very much.
So we have another public hearing that we will be opening for 47 Seventh Springs Road. Good evening.
Give him a minute.
Hi, good evening.
We're just going to take a minute while
Sure, no
we're
problem.
transitioning between applicants. Thanks.
Want someone to?
Really, I'm like, it's hot in here.
Okay, so our next applicant is 47 Seven Springs Road. Sir, if you could just reintroduce yourself for the purpose of our minutes?
Hi, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Yitzchak Stein from Ideal Design. Came to represent my customer Moses Hirsch from 47 Seven Springs for the 2FO toilet variance.
Thank you.
Any green cards back from the mailing?
Yes, actually, I did not get anything back, but I printed the reports from online that I can see. If you want, I can give them to you.
Yeah, if you can just send it to me.
We'll start. I'm going to make a motion to open the public hearing on 47 Seven Springs Road. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Pat.
Hanson,
Aye.
Pat Shea,
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Before we get to any public comment, Matt or Ashley, if you have any comments that we'd like to review, Matt, you had a memo on this?
Sure. Pretty straightforward. We'd previously issued comments on this, I think, back in the beginning of April, and the applicant submitted revised plans in response to those. My second comment there, they've submitted a tree plan showing all trees greater than 6 inches DBH. They indicate that 37 trees are being removed and 37 trees are proposed. The plan indicates the location and the variety. So submittal included some separate architectural plans with elevations and materials for your review. There was a question as to whether a basement was proposed in the new unit. Plans indicate requested report regarding suitability of site, served the two dwelling, provided a report from their licensed engineer indicating that the well had a stabilized rate of 6 gallons per minute, but in order to set plans, They're providing a 500-gallon storage tank with a booster pump in there to accommodate daily flows. Had some previous comments on the elevations of this. Revised plans are updated, increase the number of Elgin units. We believe that's appropriately sized now. Finally, addition of dwelling either must be connected to public sewer or that we receive certification from a licensed engineer that the on-site system is adequate to serve that. This submission included that report from the project engineer.
Ashley?
Or just a couple, since the applicant was before you last, the tree law was amended, so I'll just give the applicant, offline, I'll give you some amended language for that tree plan map note, just to follow the new law. The tree plan does need to be referred to the MCC, and I presume you would want Karen to review the tree plan as well. One question on the architectural details. You did give a rendering that notes the colors that are proposed, but if you could actually show the colors, or is that what you have up there, Bonnie? Maybe I missed that.
With it? Oh, yes.
A file. What's the title of?
It's a JPEG.
So my comment was to show the colors, but if that's showing the colors of all the materials, then that comment would be irrelevant. That was it. You specified it as type 2 action is exempt from seeker review, so the couple items left would be the tree plan referral to the MCC and Karen, and then assuming no other changes, I could
Thank you. So is there anyone here from the public that would like to speak to this particular application? I see shaking of heads. Yes, sir. If you would speak into the microphone and just state your name and address for the record.
My name is Barry Stern. I would like to ask if this accessory can go on the other side of the property or just only on this side? I'm talking into the mic.
Now you are, yes.
What's involved to get this accessory on the other side of the house instead of on this side?
When you say accessory, you mean the additional unit?
Additional, yeah. Is there more property on the other side, or is it?
So this is the plan.
I was asking for the plan today. I sent an email to the planning board and I didn't get it, so that's why I'm asking.
Okay, yeah, so this is the edge of asphalt, so this is the road. And this is the existing driveway. And this is the addition in here. So you're asking why it can't go to this side?
Yes, I think there's more space till the lot line on the other side than on this side.
Are you along this? Is that your property? Okay. Let me see if I can bring it up. So what are your concerns with regard to it being situated there that would help us understand? Is it a matter of you visually don't want to see it, or more privacy, or what are your thoughts?
The privacy, and then the other house on the other side is much farther away from the lot line, so it doesn't look like touching almost the other property.
Okay, so this is the house right now?
Yes,
And you're on this side?
yes.
So it looks like this is under construction. Was it expanded?
Yes,
Or there's
this is
another house
already-
here?
This is already expanded.
Okay, so it's
on the
expanded.
On the old 30 feet lot line,
Okay, so it's on this side.
yes.
And so your question is, why can't it be expanded this way? It's kind of on a hill, right? Is this at sort of the crest of a hill?
The whole property is hilly. So
Yeah.
it's going on.
So you're talking about going this
on
way.
This side, go to the next house, you can see how far it is. So I'm just asking.
Get back to an overhead here. So you're here.
Yes,
That is definitely a different structure than what we just looked at.
yes,
And so the house is going this way, you're asking, can it go this way?
correct.
All right, and if we go back to the site plan, this is the building setback requirement. It's probably equidistant in terms of how much space there is, but like you said, it's away from your side of the property. It wouldn't affect the septic, because the septic's in the back, right?
Correct.
Question is, go in this direction. This is flattened out here. On this side, I think there's a little bit more topo to deal with. So I think we can ask the applicant in
Just
terms of their thoughts.
topography isn't- no, is it only a topography issue? I was just asking.
Okay. Yeah, I think we have to explore that with the
Yeah.
with the applicant.
But otherwise, if not, then.
Otherwise,
if
you're
it's a big
okay with it.
issue, Then I would like to know if they can just swing it the other way instead of almost touching the property. How much is it now from the lot line?
So at this point, they are 15 feet from the lot line. I don't think did we see your application? You weren't in front of us, right? Because you just expanded,
Yeah, it was an addition to the,
but not a two-family.
no.
It's just a single family, so we wouldn't have seen it. Yeah. So this is showing that there's a block wall along the line. Is that your block wall, or
Yes. No, that's my block.
that's your block wall?
I was also dealing with the topography.
And how far are you away from,
The old, before it was 30 feet.
so you're at 30 feet?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Okay, we'll take any other comments
No.
that you can think of?
That's it.
You just want a little more space.
Yeah, just want to understand it. That's why I was asking, I sent it to the planning board, asking for the plan so I can understand it
Okay.
exactly.
And last night after I left at 4:30.
Are the
I
plans,
didn't see it this morning.
are the plans on the web?
I just looked, no, this project, I guess I forgot to put it on. It'll be on in the morning, though.
Okay, so we will have them on our website, so you could take a look at them.
Sure.
Okay?
No problem, thanks.
All right. Any other comments? So, members, do you have any comments on this?
No comment.
Jeff? Pat?
No comment.
So my comment is, we should address that comment.
So the question, the only concern I have putting the house on the other side is that the septic system is going to be exposed to the existing well. So if we take away the house, then the topo goes downhill to the existing well, and that will create a problem doing the septic system because it needs to be 200 feet away from the well.
So you're staying on well water,
Yes,
and you're staying on septic.
yes.
Okay. And is there so I think your neighbor is saying, is there another design where this could put a little bit more space between his property and your property? So is there a configuration of this addition, so even if you leave it on this side, can it maybe be oriented differently to provide a little bit more space between the buildings? So you leave it here, but provide, they have 30, if they have 30 feet, are you able to fit 30 feet in, or even a little more than 15?
So it's hard to say since we need to accommodate the parking and we also need to accommodate the septic system, the space for the septic. It's basically pushed in over there in the back, and I think that's the allowable setbacks that is on our property. But in any case, I would have the customer get this resolved with the neighbor.
So I think that then perhaps we'll leave the public hearing open, given for you to take a look at this. Perhaps there could be a conversation with your neighbor, see if anything can be accommodated given the realities of your lot. The fact you want to use the existing house and you want to put a subdivision on, and you need where you need to have your well and your septic.
Yeah, that's correct.
So why don't we do that? I think we can still write up a resolution, a draft one, and if you're able to make some accommodations, we'll see what happens. So I think, do we have GML? We don't have GML on this? Okay, and it's a type?
Yes, you previously specified it as type 2 from referral. And did you want Matt to send the tree plan to Karen? Okay. And then Noreen will send the tree plan to Dennis if she hasn't already.
And were there any edits from an engineering perspective that had to be done, or they basically addressed them again on your comments?
The previous comments were addressed with the submission.
Okay. So really, at this point, it's Karen taking a look at the trees and confirming that. What are we doing in terms of the landscaping? Are we adding trees along that side lot line in the event you can't move it?
Yeah, we did,
Was that a
we did
separate-
propose adding some trees.
Was this it here?
Not over there, no.
This is existing and proposed tree plan, it says. Isn't this it?
Maybe it's the next page. No, I think
No,
it's the
another
last.
page?
Oh, this one. Actually, it is this one.
It is this one, right?
Yeah. The green is the new ones. So yeah, we did add some.
So we can have Karen take a look at if there are additional options for that side lot line in the event the building remains as it is. Can they,
Yeah, we'll mention that concern to her.
yeah, that this shared property line, what additional landscaping could they do to provide a buffer? All right? So Karen can consider that as she's reviewing this.
All right. How long does it typically take, the review?
We'll make sure she has it so that, for the next meeting.
I got
The
it.
hearing would be 17th at 6:30 or soon thereafter, as it could be heard.
So I will make that motion that Ashley just expressed.
Second.
Pat Shea,
Aye.
Aye.
Jeff Manson.
Aye.
So the member of the public that spoke knows, so the hearing will be continued to the 17th? I don't know if they're listening.
Excuse me, so this public hearing will be continued to June 17th?
Won't get another notice in the mail, though? So this
So-
will be your notice of that?
So the plans will be put on the web. We have asked the landscape architect in the event the home can't be moved, that we look at additional plantings, provide maybe more of a screen. And again, this will remain open as a public hearing if you have additional comments, okay? And let's also have Ashley draft up a resolution for our next meeting in the event we can move forward, okay? Is that all right? We're good? Okay, yes. So we'll do that. All right, thank you. Do you have any comments or questions? Before? You're good?
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Have a nice evening, everybody. Thank you.
Yeah, and Matt, make sure if you could just emphasize with Karen if she could get that review done. She needs to get out for Orange and Rockland too.
Okay,
For the next meeting.
will do.
Thank you. All right, so we're done with our public hearings. We're going back to our, oh my goodness, we're going back to our returning projects. So next on the agenda is 18 Stairway. 18 Stairway. Nick Gordon.
Sorry.
Hello again.
Oh. So if you want to get your name, record, and
Sure. David Higgins from Lankentelli Engineering and Surveying. And this is the application for Nicholas Gordon. This is 18 Stairway. This is the lot that's adjacent to the 22 Stairway that was discussed earlier tonight. I believe that we've had the hearing, closed the hearing. We made some revisions to the plans to address the prior comments. And I believe that there was a resolution of approval that was drafted as directed by the board at the last meeting.
thank you. So we do have comments from our engineer, or comment memo from our engineer. So if you want to run through those.
Sure, this is pretty straightforward. At the previous meeting, we had asked them to note the removal of the encroachments on the adjoining property, and that would be stabilized with seed and mulch. And they've also added note 12 to the plan, which addresses the storage of organic materials and chemicals on the site, and notes that there will not be any. So I think that concluded our technical comments.
Thank you. Okay, Ashley?
Nothing new. I did prepare a resolution for this project as well.
So with lighting, there's no new lighting?
I don't believe so. I think that was the case.
So I think the same note we had.
Working on that, and also adding the change that we discussed for the O&R Park as well.
Okay.
In the findings.
So board members, any comments on this particular application? Anything to address?
Mayor?
Nope. Oh, Lou's stepped out. Going to move forward with the resolution. We'll ask Lou if he has any comments when he returns. So, resolution of approval. This is amended site plan and special use permit for Nicholas Gordon. He has applied for issuance of special use permit to utilize the property as a building or landscape material storage yard. Applicant proposes to utilize an existing 30 by 40 foot one-story building for storage of landscaping equipment, and to construct a 30 by 16 foot level asphalt pad to be used for heavy equipment storage. It's currently used as a pistol range located in the existing one-story building in the front of the property that will remain. And the proposed site plan amendment is for a separate building at the rear of the property that is currently used to store equipment associated with the pistol range. So this property is known as 18 Stairway, and the tax parcel is 3-1-25. Property is located within the general business GB zoning district. There is a recitation of the various plans that have been submitted. In terms of the history, this application was filed December 13th, 2023. This use is now allowed within the GB zoning district as per Town Board adoption of local law number 6 of 2024. Public hearing was already held and convened on April 15th, at which time it was closed. This is a type 2 action under seeker. This was referred to the county. It was a matter for local determination. Were there any comments that they issued?
There was a letter, I don't believe,
Not in this one?
they didn't, which I thought was interesting.
This one was next to that
They had
one,
a
right?
comment saying that they don't object to the planning board assuming lead agency, but it's a type 2 action, so.
Okay, all right.
So it's a local determination.
Okay, and like the other, this was referred to Town of Blooming Grove under GML 239NN. The resolution of approval goes on to discuss our findings, the general ones with regard to the site, meeting the various standards for site plan approval and for special use. And then the specific findings are provisions of Town Code 5751 are complied with, storage yard has been considered a wholesale business, no loading spaces, access driveways for trucks are located within 30 feet of a residential district. Appropriate vegetation, other measures exist to obscure views of the stored materials and equipment. Use is adequately screened from adjacent R1 district. Heavy machinery and other equipment will be stored on an outdoor impervious area designed to keep soils, natural surface free from oil and or automotive and hydraulic chemicals and fluids. No compost, manure, mulch, or other organic materials or chemicals are proposed to be stored here. Heavy equipment will only be operated, and these are the hours of operation.
That's the finding that I tweaked consistent with the other project, noting the O&R park and the proximity and separation of uses, that no further restrictions were warranted to mitigate noise.
Okay, and then to this we'll add, that'll be a condition, right?
Lighting.
Okay.
I'll let you know when I get to that one.
Okay, so public improvements, there are none, so a public improvement security agreement's not needed. Okay, specific conditions, approval subject to final engineering review of the plan sets, and plans shall...
The memo is May 20th again.
May 20th, so they'll have to address our engineer's comments. So no new lighting is being approved as part of this application.
Should any lighting be proposed in the future, the applicant shall return to the planning board for amended approval to ensure that the lighting is dark sky compliant.
No building permit for a structure larger than is shown on the plans will be issued. This is for building a landscaping material storage yard as per the special use permit narrative, and that narrative is to be attached to the resolution for operation of the special use. No compost, manure, mulch, or other organic material shall be stored on the property. Heavy equipment, again, over 1 ton shall be operated on site, shall only be operated on site between the hours of 7 to 9. This site plan approval only allows construction of those items that are shown on the plans. No encroachments or neighboring properties are being authorized or approved by this resolution. So these are obviously same as, or similar to the other. So do we need the same motor oil note or not in this instance?
This applicant wasn't proposed added, just in case that ends
I
up
don't
being.
think we'd have any objection to that.
Section, let's add that note too, to the conditions. Because I imagine these are very similar operations, so.
Yeah, I mean, there'd be equipment, some equipment that's going to be stored, but certainly no motor oils or fluids or anything above the amount that would require, a special occupancy under the building code.
I would say notwithstanding the foregoing, this is specific condition number 5, notwithstanding the foregoing, the applicant may store motor or miscellaneous mechanical oil for regular maintenance of his equipment in the storage. Well, that was dealing with storage containers.
For them in the building?
Yeah, there's a garage
in the building
there
on the in the building on the site, so long as he does not exceed the limits of the New York State Fire Code for same. Prior to the signing of the plans, a note shall be added to this effect to the satisfaction of the planning board engineer.
So, and then there are the general conditions that accompany all our resolutions. Does anybody have any other suggested changes? Any other amendments? No? No?
No.
All right, so I'll make the motion that we approve this resolution for amended site plan special use permit for Nicholas Gordon as amended this evening. May I have a second?
Second.
Jay,
Aye.
Bonnie Franson,
Aye.
Jeff Manson.
Aye.
Revere.
Aye.
All right. With that, the motion carries and it's approved. And we'll wait to get the revisions and we'll go from there.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Have a great night.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Aye.
All right, next item on the agenda is 290 Mountain View Avenue.
Sorry, Joel, we have to go home now.
I thought about doing that, but I,
Time's up.
Enjoy watching professional meetings, it's fine. Good evening, Joel Mann, Braham and Associates, on behalf of the applicant. So the proposed project, 290 Mountain View, we've been here probably twice or three times. We made the adjustments from the comments from the last meeting. I'm taking chances. Last meeting, I couldn't make it, so Mike was there. Now Mike has a conflict, so I hope we are all on the same page. I think the biggest comment was about the parking being out of in the front setback. That has been revised on both lots. And other small adjustments. We received a letter from the landscape architect, just didn't have a chance to make that revisions. I think everything is reasonable and doable. We will address that before the end of the month for the next submission. So with that, if the board doesn't have any significant comments, I would like, if possible, that we can schedule a public hearing for next month, subject to that we will submit any minor comments and including the landscape comments for the next submission date.
so let me start with our engineer comments. Like, I think a lot of it's been discussed.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of the comments from the previous submission were addressed with plan revisions. The ones noted here in the applicant's response, for example, number 2, where it says, we understand that the applicant will submit a request for jurisdictional determination from DEC,
So we
and that
submitted
that should be submitted. Their response was, yes, we acknowledge that comment. We haven't received that response yet, but they've acknowledged it, and that's in the works. So there were several like that, really comments 2 through 6, that I think they're in the process of tracking down or addressing from.
Orange County Sewer, for example, we submitted that.
Yep.
So basically, I think we noted in our response letter, we delineated the wetlands. We gave the date and Mike Nowicki, who did it, and he submitted to the DEC for a JD.
That's submitted. So he's going the JD route?
I think that I didn't spoke to him, it was Mike.
Okay. Did you speak with Mike? So it seems there are 2 paths. You either go to the central office where you ask whether it's going to be regulated, or you go directly to Mike Fratz because you've done a delineation and you're going to accept that you're likely regulated.
I think he sent it to Mike Fratz.
To
I
Mike
will check
Fratz?
it.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's a very, technically, we are staying away anyway 100 feet. We have like a wall who's separating, so I don't think they
Okay.
want to make a big deal about it anyway, so.
When I say Mike Fratz, that's the wetland scientist at Region 3 DEC.
Yeah.
And that seems to shortcut the time for these reviews from DEC.
So I will make sure if we have correspondence with them and possibly we'll have a response for the next meeting, we'll share that with you.
Okay. Yeah, so I'm just looking at the May MHE letter. So there was tree plan submitted for review.
Karen did have comments that have been, you have Karen's comments, correct?
We just got it like a couple days ago, or last
Okay.
week, I believe. So, like I said, everything is reasonable and nothing
Okay.
major. So we just need to relocate a little bit the
Okay.
trees, and we'll have it updated by the end of the month.
Talked about the wetlands. It looked like there were still some details for curb drainage pavement for Mountain View.
That's
Correct. The areas that are proposed to be widened, those details should just be added to the plan. And then, comment 7, just, they'll need to obtain building permits for the retaining wall proposed along the side of the unit. When they reconfigured the parking, now the parking spaces come right up to the wall. That'll put a surcharge on the wall. So there'll probably be, or need to be, some geogrid or reinforcing with that, which that can be part of the building permit application. But there's a railing mounted to the top of the wall, right at the edge of the parking spaces. I'd recommend you incorporate a curbing or some parking blocks or something
It's a good
so
idea.
that someone doesn't hit the railing. It's aluminum railing.
It's like a guardrail. We do it typically, we raise it with 16 inches, so that's basically protects the bumper of the car.
Okay, yes, something to do that, just so that doesn't topple the top block there.
Have yet to submit the colors, materials, finishes?
Yeah,
or you-
just that is missing. We finished the elevations and everything. We didn't have a chance. We'll have the rendering for the next meeting.
Okay, so if we're going to do a public hearing, we definitely need that, so.
Yeah, sure, we'll have it.
Okay,
It's in the make. We'll probably have it next week or even this week.
okay,
That's the extent of them, correct? Yep.
thank you. Ashley, comments?
So this is an unlisted action under seeker. You circulated for lead agency March 27th. I don't believe you've received any objections, so you'd be able to assume lead agency status tonight. Since it's a subdivision, you do have to complete seeker before opening the public hearing. You can schedule a public hearing subject to receipt of the color, information on the colors for all of the architecturals. And
And we'd have to do a neg deck before
you
we
would have
open
to,
the
exactly,
public hearing.
before opening the hearing. So you could
Okay.
do it at the same night. I don't know if there's anything else from a seeker perspective you'd be looking for. I don't think so. I know they're doing the,
Pretty,
Is
I
it-
mean, a lot of this has been reviewed previously, and so this is because we're going from what was going to be a one-family to a two-family, correct?
a two-lot subdivision,
Subdivision.
and there's an existing, which gets me to my next question. I think in a prior submission, you indicated the house on Lot 1 was constructed already, but the plan says it's under construction.
It's under construction. It just, since we started the survey, it was under construction, but now it's done already.
Have a CO?
I think they have a temp CO, they should have.
Okay, so maybe
have a
just
CO.
change the plan to indicate that it's already
Oh,
constructed.
Okay, I see. No problem. Is there anything specific in the colors that you're looking? Basically, what I will try to do to match it to the just built it single-family home that's there.
Dark blue.
Blue? I like.
I'd like to see dark blue for a change.
I like blue. You know my building on Ninja Road?
I know.
So that's blue.
Yeah,
So
see?
I like
So it
that
should be
color.
easy.
So we have the same. Okay.
White with the black trim and, no, you ask your client what they would like
Yeah,
first.
okay, no problem.
All right, members, any comments on this particular application?
No comment.
No comment.
No comment.
All right, so I think we're okay to open a public hearing for next month, and we'd need to prepare a negative declaration because we have to adopt that beforehand. So, do I need to do a motion
First,
for a
it would
neg deck?
assume lead
Assume
status.
lead- Okay. So I will make a motion that we assume lead agency status for 290 Mountain View Ave proposed subdivision. May I have a second?
Second.
Rivera,
Aye.
Jeff Manson. Pat Shea.
Aye.
Bonnie Franson.
Aye. And then we can just authorize you the
You can do it by motion
consensus.
if you want, or just tell me, direct me.
Yeah, I think the consensus is we can go ahead and move forward with the negative declaration, the drafting.
Wanted to set a public hearing subject to receipt of the color
The elevations,
architectural
renderings.
information.
Yeah, so I'll make a motion that we set a public hearing for this subdivision application for June 17th at 6:30 or soon thereafter.
It's actually subdivision and special permit, just to.
Subdivision and special permit, subject to the applicant delivering, prior to our submission deadline, renderings and elevations of the proposed buildings. May I have a second?
Second.
Pat Shea.
Aye.
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 All right, with that, the motion carries.
Thank you very much. It was worth it to wait for this, so we accomplished. Just a practical question, so probably the rendering I can have done the next couple, let's say beginning of next week. Now, the comments from the engineer, even it's minor, it's not major, with the landscape will probably be more the
Take a little
day
longer.
before the deadline. So the question is if should do 2 submissions, so you have the colors for sure on time, or we
Yeah.
should do everything at once?
That's usually a separate submission anyway, isn't it?
Okay.
You kind of do that separately, so if you could get that in first, because we know there may still be comments that have to be addressed, revisions to the site plan, but we haven't seen the actual rendering,
Sure.
so,
So we'll do that then as soon as possible.
okay. And then are you here for 81?
No?
Okay. Then you can leave if you'd like.
I was involved there, but I'm not sure what the purpose is.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much.
This is just, is this an extension?
This is another amended
Thank you.
resolution. So at your last meeting, you did amend the resolution to modify that condition that required an amended water agreement with the village. And that was because it's covered by the original agreement, and the applicant was getting a letter from the village that confirmed it was covered by the original agreement, the change to the two-family. We had thought at that time that they already received that letter from the village, but it was only a draft of the letter. We don't have a signed version. So the purpose of this is to modify that condition to require them to submit that letter.
Oh, you better get on the mic, or you're going to get yelled at.
Actually, gave them a draft letter to make sure that if you have any edits, otherwise we can get it signed, so.
I did give edits back on the letter, so this was a while back. So there is a version out there that's supposed to get signed.
And I didn't get it from okay, so I'll need to check on that.
I had sent it to Yiddy, I think a while
Yeah?
back, so
Okay, we'll check on that. I'll remind myself, I'm missing some, I'm waiting, the village is waiting something from the client, so I'll remind myself, I forgot that.
Okay.
So we can have the letter ready, just the client needs to finish up with the village something, so.
So I'm not going to go through the whole,
yeah, I'll just pull up the amendment and that.
yep, so this is the second amended resolution of approval for site plan and special use permit for Bays A Properties.
On page 7 is specific condition number 4.
Okay,
Prior to the issuance of a building permit, the applicant shall provide the building department with written confirmation from the Village of Kiristrel satisfactory to the planning board attorney, clarifying that the additional dwelling unit is permitted to connect to the village water supply system under the aforesaid restrictive covenant, easement, and developer agreement. So there's
That's
already
the
the
one
agreement on
change.
file, and that's the one addition.
okay. So with that, I'll make a motion that we approve the second amended resolution of approval, subject to the revision that was just read by our attorney. May I have a second?
Second.
Rivera.
Aye.
Jeff Manson.
Aye.
Aye.
All right, with that, the motion carries, and this is approved. The amendment is approved. All right.
Thank you.
All right, so, oh my gosh, is that our whole agenda? Yes. That is it.
Picked
And
up there
so,
after,
you all are excused for I don't even think we're going over some of these. I don't think, you didn't add the March one to this, I don't believe.
No, the one you sent me, I forgot about. I wanted to add it into board docs, and I forgot to put it in board docs. So it's on my list for tomorrow to start on them.
So you're going to get us the June changes, September and September? Did you have edits?
I didn't have edits. I didn't have edits to submit.
Okay.
Get them to next.
Okay.
September.
Okay, so you could do September 17th. So, do you want to make a motion? Because I'm going to...
Hi, Matt. I'd like to make a motion that we approve the meeting minutes of September 17th pursuant to my review after looking those over and seeing that no edits were required for updating. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Noreen?
Jeff Manson,
Aye.
Vera,
Aye.
Ed Shea,
Aye.
Bonnie Franson.
Abstain, I was not present.
Thank you.
Now, I thought we approved February 18th. I think we did.
Back and double check. Back on, because I off on the mic.
Thought we did. All right. Yeah, double check. Anything else we need to address? Mary, anything you want to add? You stuck it in for our whole meeting. All right, I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any nays, any abstentions? Motion carries. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you all.